will now hear today's first keynote address from Dr. Maluleke. He is the president of Education International and the general secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SADTU.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to Dr. Skonveta for the introduction, and thanks for meeting comrades that I have seen them in Nairobi some years ago, and my friends from Blind South Africa and Recreate. Thanks for welcoming me here. As I was struggling with the parking, I even said to Cindy, let me go back to Johannesburg, honestly. This parking here is a problem. Otherwise, thank you very much for having me here. It is indeed an honor for me to join you today in Cape Town as we reaffirm our shared mission of ensuring equitable and traditional knowledge for Africa. Without reiterating much of what Dr. Skonveta has eloquently stated in his welcoming address, I extend my gratitude to all those involved in hosting this conference and to all of you attending here today. Thank you for your commitment to copyright law reform. Reflecting on my childhood in rural Limpopo, we were compelled to learn in English and later in Afrikaans, which led us to stand against the apartheid government in 1976. We were never given the opportunity to learn in our own language. This experience underscores the profound impact that learning materials have on a child's potential in school. In the quest for knowledge, equity, every child deserves the right to learn in their own language. Today, I stand before you not only as the president of Education International, but also as the general secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, representing more than 70% of educators and education workers in South Africa. Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, once said, "It is not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survives is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself." The Global Status of Teachers report launched on the International Day of Education in January 24th this year revealed a shocking shortage of 44 million teachers worldwide. A major catalyst for this shortage is the inability to attract and retain teachers due to inadequate conditions for providing quality teaching. Deborah Rue, a global inclusivity strategist, noted that accessibility allows us to tap into everyone's potential. UNESCO's framework for action recognizes knowledge as part of the right to education for a reason. It is crucial for teachers to have access to teaching and learning materials specifically designed for educational purposes. Fair copyright legislation is essential to enabling teachers to adapt and use material, enrich them, make them context-specific, decolonize our knowledge production and consumption in education, and address an increasingly diverse student body. Having mentioned decolonization of knowledge production and consumption in education, I must add that this implores on us to embark on a journey of the decolonization, peeling back the layers of oppression that have been ingrained in our consciousness. This is not merely an act of dismantling the physical symbols of colonialism, but a profound transformation of our mental landscape. As we lift the veils of ignorance and prejudice, we must replace them with the light of wisdom and understanding. Decolonization is reawakening, a reclamation of our heritage and identity. May I also add that education is the bridge that connects our past struggles to our future triumphs. The right to education is a fundamental human right. Our teachers should not be criminalized for striving to provide quality education to our children. Unfortunately, copyright laws for education are often overly restrictive, creating barriers for teachers and the right to education. Global AI shows that the teachers in many Latin American and African countries are particularly disadvantaged by the copyright legislation, forcing them to work in legal gray zones or stop using important teaching materials. The use of digital material and adaptation for children with disabilities poses a particular challenge for the teaching profession. Among 37 countries studied in a recent report by wireless connectivity specialists, again, South Africa ranks as one of the worst countries for digital readiness. Recent studies highlight the urgent need for the improved access to education. The 2025 Global Estimates update by Education Cannot Wait reveals that 234 million school-age children in crisis worldwide require urgent support to access quality education, an increase of 35 million over the past 3 years only. Refugees internationally or internally displaced children, girls and children with disabilities are among the most affected. The report emphasizes that these growing needs are rapidly outpacing education aid funding and calls for urgent additional financing to address this global silent emergency. Access to appropriate learning materials is a key strategy for achieving the first means of implementation under SDG 4. The Supporting Framework for Action Education 2030 highlights access to learning materials as one of the core strategic approaches for implementing the goal. Education institutions and programs should be adequately, equitably resourced with safe, environment-friendly, and easily accessible facilities, sufficient numbers of quality teachers and educators using learner-centered, active, and collaborative pedagogical approaches and books, other learning materials, open educational resources, and technology that is non-discriminatory, learning conducive, learner-friendly, context-specific, cost-effective, and available to all learners, children, youth, and adults. At the heart of Education International's Go Public, Fund Education campaign is the principle of putting people before profit. The message is very clear. We want creators and authors of material to be compensated fairly, but we do not want intermediaries in the copyright businesses to create profit margins that deter access to learning materials and indirectly hinder access to quality public education. Fair use in education is the key that unlocks the door to a world of knowledge and creativity. By allowing educators to utilize copyrighted materials in their teaching, we empower them to inspire, innovate, and ignite the minds of future generations. Through fair use, we create a bridge that connects students to a wealth of information, fostering critical thinking and lifelong learning. In the classroom, fair use transforms copyrighted content into powerful tools for teaching and learning, ensuring that education remains a dynamic and inclusive space where every student has the opportunity to thrive. So what is fair use, and what does it mean for copyright laws? In its guide to copyright and copy wrongs in education and research, Education International explains that fair use and fair dealing are general exceptions that apply a flexible balancing test to determine what is fair. Means fair for creators and users. It also means fair for various purposes such as criticism, review, quotation, and news reporting. Some fair use and fair dealing rights, for example, in the United States, fair use, Nigeria recently, and Singapore, fair dealing, are open, meaning they can be applied to any purpose, for example, for teaching and learning, as long as the use itself is fair. Other fair use and fair dealing rights, we see them in Uganda, which is a fair use, and in the United Kingdom for fair dealing, are closed, applying only to a limited number of defined purposes. The more open the right, the more useful it is to teachers, researchers, and others as time and technology evolve. Fair use in education is not just a legal necessity. It is a moral imperative to ensure that no child is left behind. For South Africa and other nations, global collaboration through WIPO is crucial in addressing the complexities of copyright in the digital era. The digital revolution has transformed the way we create, share, and consume content. While this has opened new opportunities, it has also posed significant challenges that require collaborative efforts by all stakeholders. By working together, countries can develop and implement fairer copyright practices that balance the interests of creators and consumers. As I conclude, Let me refer to Amilcar Cabral as one of the philosophers who influenced my political and educational activism in the apartheid era, when he reminds us that a people's culture is both a product of their history and a determinant of their future. Education deeply tied to culture is both a tool for resistance and a beacon for equity. The Copyright Amendment Bill in South Africa does not permit the piracy of learner-teacher support material for profit. It allows a fair use policy that enables reproduction so that a child in Limpopo can learn the content in their own language of Setsonga and excel based on their abilities. For the teacher of that learner, it ensures that they do not struggle to find support materials due to the budget constraints in the rural school, which would further disadvantage the previously marginalized and exacerbate inequalities that prevent quality public education for all our children. As we move forward, colleagues, it is imperative that we commit and continue to strengthen our commitment to global collaboration. We must work together to address emerging issues such as digital piracy and the need for equitable access to knowledge and culture. By doing so, we can create a more just and inclusive global copyright system that benefits everyone. When I was teaching mathematics, I used music as a form of repetition and a fun way for learners to remember calculus and algebra. I used to say, we need to protect our arts, because if we don't invest in arts, we will not be able to improve mathematics and science. And we know from South Africa, many children are not taking pure mathematics. And therefore, we need to protect our arts, our music, our drama, and everything. We need to protect them. So this method made learning enjoyable and helped the learners not only to retain information, but applied it. Was I an innovative teacher with limited resources or a criminal for using a piece of music without paying for the rights? I leave you with that thought. Thank you.